Picture this. You're diving deep into the ocean, surrounded by endless blue. Fish glide past, sunlight fades, and suddenly you see a shoreline, waves, ripples, a surface. But here's the problem, you're already underwater. These aren't hallucinations, they aren't CGI, and they definitely shouldn't exist. Just when you think the ocean makes sense, it reveals another secret. These underwater lakes aren't rare accidents, they're scattered across the planet, quietly sitting beneath thousands of meters of water. No waves crashing, no sunlight, just invisible borders separating one liquid world from another. And the deeper scientists looked, the more unsettling it became. Because some of these lakes are older than modern oceans, some move like rivers, and others are slowly reshaping the seafloor itself. Let's dive into more real underwater lakes that shouldn't exist, but do. What is an underwater lake, really? An underwater lake isn't a lake made of fresh water sitting peacefully on the ocean floor. Instead, it's usually a pool of extremely salty water called brine, so dense that it doesn't mix with the surrounding seawater. Think of it like oil floating on water, but flipped upside down. Because this brine is much heavier, it settles into depressions on the seafloor and behaves like a liquid surface. Divers and submersibles have reported seeing waves, ripples, and even shorelines as if they were flying over a ghostly lake. But what makes these lakes even more terrifying and fascinating is that many of them are toxic, oxygen-free, and deadly to most life forms. The deadliest one, the jacuzzi of despair. Yes, that's its real nickname. In the Gulf of Mexico, scientists discovered an underwater brine pool so lethal that anything swimming into it dies almost instantly. Fish drift in, lose control, and collapse as if poisoned because they are. The water is loaded with methane, hydrogen sulfide, and extreme salinity. To scientists, it looks like a bubbling hot tub, hence the nickname jacuzzi of despair. To marine life, it's a death trap, and yet life still exists around it. Certain microbes thrive on the edges, feeding on chemicals that would kill almost anything else. It's proof that even in places that look like underwater hellscapes, life finds a way. How do these underwater lakes even form? The story begins millions of years ago. When ancient seas evaporated, they left behind thick layers of salt, buried beneath the ocean floor. Over time, seawater seeped down, dissolved that salt, and turned into super dense brine. When this brine leaks back out through cracks, it flows like liquid metal, sinking and pooling into underwater basins. Because it's heavier than normal seawater, it stays put, forming a stable lake that can last for thousands of years. Some underwater lakes are so stable that they develop their own currents, layers, and chemistry, completely separate from the ocean above them. Life that shouldn't be alive. Here's where things get really weird. Despite zero oxygen, crushing pressure, and toxic chemicals, certain organisms don't just survive, they depend on these lakes. Bacteria around brine pools use chemical reactions instead of oxygen to produce energy, similar to how life might exist on alien worlds. Scientists believe these environments could resemble conditions on moons like Europa or Enceladus, making underwater lakes a key focus in the search for extraterrestrial life. In other words, by studying these lakes, we're not just learning about Earth, we're learning how life might exist beyond Earth. Why they completely break our understanding of water. We're taught that water mixes with water, end of story. But underwater lakes prove that density, salinity, and chemistry can override that rule. Two liquids that look identical can behave like completely separate worlds, one floating above the other, never blending. To divers and robotic explorers, crossing into one of these lakes looks like entering a different dimension. Instruments malfunction, Visibility warps. Vehicles appear to sink into a surface that shouldn't exist. It's one of the rare moments where nature looks like science fiction without any special effects. The Red Sea brine pools, liquid that can't be touched. Hidden deep beneath the Red Sea are dozens of underwater lakes so salty and toxic that even remotely operated vehicles avoid prolonged exposure. These brine pools contain salinity levels up to 10 times higher than normal seawater, along with dissolved heavy metals like iron and manganese. What makes them visually striking is their sharp boundary. Cameras show a clear, shimmering surface where normal seawater meets brine, as if two oceans refuse to mix. Fish that cross into it don't swim out. They sink. Scientists believe these pools formed from ancient salt deposits dissolved by seawater over millions of years. And perhaps the most unsettling part is this: these underwater lakes are completely silent. No waves, no storms, no surface disturbance to warn us they're there. They exist in total darkness, shaped slowly over thousands or even millions of years, untouched by human history. While technology pushes us towards space, these hidden worlds remind us that Earth still holds mysteries just as alien, just as dangerous, and just as important to understand. Antarctica's hidden brine lakes, water below ice. Antarctica hosts some of the most surreal underwater lakes on Earth, not beneath the ocean, but trapped under thick ice and frozen seabeds. These brine lakes remain liquid even at sub-zero temperatures because of their extreme salinity. One famous example, Blood Falls, releases iron-rich brine that oxidizes upon contact with air, turning the ice blood red. Beneath the surface, this brine supports microbial life isolated from sunlight for thousands of years. The Mediterranean brine basins, time capsules of Earth. At the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea lie brine pools formed during a dramatic event known as the Messinian salinity crisis, when the sea nearly dried up millions of years ago. As water returned, it trapped salt layers beneath the seabed. Today, these underwater lakes are chemically frozen in time. Their waters don't circulate with the surrounding ocean, creating isolated chemical systems that have remained unchanged for tens of thousands of years. Underwater rivers that flow without moving. Some underwater lakes behave less like lakes and more like rivers, slowly flowing downhill across the seafloor. Because brine is denser, gravity pulls it through underwater valleys exactly the way rivers move on land. These rivers carve channels, deposit sediments, and reshape the ocean floor over time. Yet from above, nothing looks different. The ocean appears calm and uniform. This discovery forced scientists to accept that liquid landscapes exist beneath the ocean, operating under physics most people never imagine. Why scientists take these lakes seriously? Underwater lakes aren't just visual oddities, ecosystems that survive without oxygen. So the next time you look at the ocean, remember this: there are entire worlds beneath it, and they don't want to mix. If you enjoyed this, hit like, subscribe, and comment below. Should humans explore these places further or leave them untouched? Because some secrets exist not to scare us, but to remind us how little we truly know.